If you have ever thought, I know what to eat, but I don't know how to apply it, then this video is going to be for you. Today we're going to talk about how to build a balanced plate or a balanced meal, and we're also going to talk about why it is so beneficial. This is one of my favorite things to talk about and teach nutrition clients and also showcase on Instagram when I'm showing my daily meals. When we learn about how much food our body needs and how to build a balanced meal, it's really gonna set us up for sustainable, healthy eating in the long run. We can easily throw together meals with what we have in our fridge, our pantry, or our freezer, and we don't have to overcomplicate it, and it really makes mealtime effortless. This is how I eat probably 90% of the time. I love a good recipe. I share recipes, but I'm busy. I don't want to spend hours in the kitchen, and learning about protein, carbs, and fat is just going to make building a meal really easy and really simple. So first, let's talk about the benefits of building a balanced plate. First, it's going to help balance our blood sugar. When we eat too many carbs without enough protein and fat, it's going to spike our blood sugar. Our body has to work to bring that down, and sometimes it works a little bit too hard. It brings it down too low, and that's when we feel that crash. That's gonna set us up for low energy and then also feeling hungry again. So, say you just had a bowl of oats for breakfast, an hour later, you might be hungry again. When we pair protein and fat with carbs, we are preventing that blood sugar spike and crash, or a roller coaster as I like to call it, and it's really gonna help set us up for not having a lot of cravings either. Next, it's gonna give us balanced energy. This hits on the point before, but when we pair all three macronutrients together, we have long-lasting and balanced energy. It's going to set us up for better sleep. Balanced blood sugar means better sleep. A lot of times I find clients waking up in the middle of the night, especially around the 1 a.m., 2 a.m. hour, and that's usually a sign of our blood sugar crashing. So getting enough food and enough balanced macronutrients before bed, at dinner, or either a bedtime snack is going to help with having awesome sleep. It's also going to help keep you full. So protein is the most satiating macronutrient. Fat is very satiating as well. So when we are eating protein, fat, and carbs together, I find carbs are just satisfying as themselves. A meal without carbs to me just doesn't really feel like that great of a meal. But when we have all three macronutrients, our meals are going to be very satisfying. They're gonna help keep us full. Next, when we are eating all three macronutrients, we're just getting a wide variety of food, and that means lots of micronutrients. So different vitamins and minerals. This is going to be important for just supporting our body and all the functions that our body needs to do throughout the day. And again, this is going to help make us feel more satisfied. Lots of different foods from lots of different food groups is going to help us feel satisfied rather than just sticking to certain food groups or specific foods. Having a balanced plate is also going to help with balancing our hormones. Our hormones cannot be balanced if we are constantly riding that blood sugar roller coaster of going up and down. So balanced blood sugar helps to have balanced hormones. And then finally, it's going to help support athletic performance. So getting enough protein is going to help with muscle protein synthesis, so building muscle. And then carbs are really going to help for energy for our workouts, and both of those together can also help with recovery. So before we get into what a balanced plate actually looks like, we're going to hit on protein, carbs, and fat. So those are the three main macronutrients. I know I was kind of mentioning them before. We're going to briefly run down what each one does and some examples of each one. You don't need to track your macros to understand what protein, carbs, and fat are. I do think tracking your macros does help you give a really good understanding of what macronutrients come from what foods, but you can have a very good understanding without actually having to weigh and measure and track things. So first we're going to hit on protein. I recommend about 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight or lean body mass, or maybe your potential goal weight if you have a lot of weight to lose. This is a little bit higher than maybe what the RDA recommends. I know it's higher than what the RDA recommends, but it's really going to be beneficial for countless reasons, especially if you have muscle growth as a goal and you want to maintain a good body composition. What the RDA recommends is for sedentary individuals, which I find, a lot of people aren't just sitting on the couch all day. So some of the functions of protein, it is the building blocks of our body. It provides structure and function. As I mentioned before, it helps build and repair muscle. So this is really important if you are active or want to be building muscle. It's going to help with blood sugar balance, as I mentioned before, and also help keep us full. It is the essential building block of enzymes in our body, which really act as the catalyst of all processes in the body. It is going to help with digestion, so getting enough protein is going to help with the release of stomach acid, and that's going to help break down our food. It's important for helping transport the blood, and it also helps with fluid balance. Some examples of protein include animal products. So we have beef, chicken, turkey, pork. Then we also have seafood, so salmon, shrimp, whitefish, scallops. There's also, deli meat, eggs. We have some dairy products like Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, milk. There's protein powder as well. And then plant-based things like tofu or tempeh, and I would say those are probably the main forms of protein for most people. So next we're going to talk about carbs. Carbs are my favorite macronutrient. I think we all know that they are pretty dang delicious, but they're also really beneficial in the body as well. Whether you like high carb or low carb, getting some carbs in your diet. So carbs are the body's preferred source of energy. Yes, we can use fat for energy, but it's going to be so much easier for the body to use carbs. Carbs are actually the immune system's preferred source of energy when we are fighting infection. So if you've ever been sick and you are just craving all the carbs, I know I love like bread and cereal and just bananas, plain carbs. That's why it's our body telling us, hey, I'm trying to fight this infection. I need some more carbs. They are needed for our brain and red blood cells to function. They're going to help support our digestion with fiber. And carbs are just a great source of micronutrients. So if you think about all the fruits and veggies there are, so many different colors, so many different micronutrients. And again, it's going to be really great for our gut microbiome with the fiber that carbs bring into our diet. Some good sources of carbs are bread, tortillas, cereal, granola. We have all our potatoes, white potatoes, sweet potatoes, winter squash, acorn squash, butternut squash, delicata squash, quinoa, rice, pasta, fruit, veggies. Some veggies are going to be a little bit lower carb, but most veggies do have carbs. Maple syrup, honey, beans, and lentil are all great. Finally, we're going to talk about fat, the last macronutrient. And fat is really probably the most delicious macronutrient in terms of adding flavor to things. So if you think about a chicken breast versus a chicken thigh, the thigh is definitely going to have more flavor. Adding butter to your meal, definitely going to add more flavor. So fat is absolutely delicious. Some of the benefits of fat is it helps absorb fat-soluble vitamins, so vitamins A, E, D, and K. It's going to help with fullness, like I mentioned earlier, and it's also going to help regulate digestion. Fat is going to be the most calorie dense out of the macronutrients, so it's a great source of energy, especially long-lasting energy for low-intensity activities. It's going to help build cell membranes and certain hormones, and it is our protective lining of our organs, Some examples of fat. So I mentioned butter earlier. We have cooking oils like avocado oil, olive oil, coconut oil, avocado. There's also going to be foods like beef or salmon that will have some fat. Eggs, we have nuts and seeds, nut butter, full fat dairy will have some fat, bacon, cheese, coconut milk, olives, all that good stuff. And as you can see, a lot of foods will have mixed macronutrients. So yes, some foods will just be straight up protein or straight up carbs, but a lot of times different foods will have protein and fat, or carbs and protein, fat and carbs, things like that. So now that we have an understanding of why building a balanced plate is important and some idea of protein, carbs, and fat to help build a balanced plate, let's dive into actually building a balanced plate. So for myself and for my clients, when I talk about building a balanced plate, yes, we want protein, carbs, and fat, but I always add in some veggies and fiber there. Of course, not every meal is going to have vegetables, but protein, carbs, fat, and some fiber is going to set you up for a really great meal. So for serving sizes, if we have a plate, we want to think about it broken down kind of like a pie chart. So for protein, I usually go for about 1/4 of the plate. If you're not using a plate, you can kind of think 1 to 2 palm size of protein. This is going to vary on your activity needs and how much you like to eat and things like that. For veggies, it can go anywhere from 1/3 to 1/2 the plate, depending on what kind of meal it is and what you're consuming. Starchy carbs can go anywhere from 1/4 to 1/3 the plate, and I say about a palm size full or a cup is kind of a serving of that if you're not using a plate again. And then fat, anywhere from 1 to 4 tablespoons. So we can use an idea of a tablespoon, or we can also use our thumb as a general idea of 1 serving of fat. For some meals, this is going to look a little different. So say I'm eating, ground beef, that's a higher fat percentage. I probably don't need to bring any more fat in for myself. So it's going to vary on the foods that you are eating. When I'm talking about post-workout, I'll slightly adjust it to have a little bit more carbs just to help replenish my glycogen, which is my stored glucose that I use during my workout. It's really going to depend too on, what kind of workout you're doing, the intensity of it, the duration. So it's always good to play around with what feels best for you and what is going to help you recover the best. So for that post-workout plate, the carbs will go anywhere from 1/3 to 1/2 of the plate. The protein will still be about 1/4. The veggies will be about 1/4. And then depending on, what protein I'm having, it could be a couple tablespoons of fat. So now that we have an idea of what our plate should look like, let's give some examples of just real life situations. So we could have grilled chicken thighs with some coleslaw. That is a mayo-based coleslaw. So the chicken thighs are gonna bring in the protein. The coleslaw is gonna have cabbage and carrots and whatever else you like in there for some veggies and fiber. The mayo is going to bring in the fat. And then say we have a roasted sweet potato with it, which is going to be our starchy carbs and also bring in some fiber as well. Say we're making a pasta dish and we have rice noodles, which will be our carb. We're gonna have some shrimp for our protein. We're gonna have some peppers in there, maybe some broccoli, whatever veggies you like for some veggies and fiber. And then we're gonna have a peanut sauce that's going to bring in some fat. That'll also bring in a little bit more protein. Say we wanna have oatmeal. This is not your standard, meal situation. It's gonna be in a bowl. So we have oats, which is going to bring in our carbs. It's also gonna provide us some fiber. We're gonna have some chia seeds in there. This is personally how I like to make my oatmeal. Chia seeds will bring in some fat, a little bit of protein as well too. I'm going to use protein powder to bump up the protein in there. And then I like to add cauliflower rice to my protein just to increase a little bit more volume of it. And you can't taste it, I promise, but it's also going to bring in some veggies and fiber, and then I'll top it off, with some nut butter for some fat. That is one of my favorite post-workout meals. And then say maybe we wanna have pizza. That's not your typical protein, carb, fat situation. Pizza does have all those macronutrients, but for myself or, maybe my nutrition clients working on goals, we wanna have a little bit more protein. So we'll count the pizza as carbs and fat. So we have, the bread and the cheese. And then usually I will serve it with a side salad just for some veggies and fiber. And I'll usually maybe have some chicken in the salad for a little extra protein boost. So we talked through what a plate should look like. Now let's build one. I have some things that I prepped this weekend and just some veggies on hand, some fat, and I'm just going to build an easy balanced plate. So to start off, we're going to start with some rice, which is going to be our carb source. I'm going to add about a cup or so on there. This is going to be individual for your needs. This amount works well for me. We have some leftover grilled chicken thighs, which is going to be our protein source. Usually I eat around 2 chicken thighs. So that will be about 1/4 of our plate. And now I just have some veggies. So we'll add some greens on there. I'm going to cut up a little bit of some tomatoes, a little bit more veggies. And this is really just a simple, easy meal. Again, I don't like to overcomplicate it that much. I have some pepper, a little bit more veggie. Say that's good. And for some fat, we're going to add some goat cheese. This will also bring in a little bit more protein. Not that we really need it because we have a decent amount of chicken thighs, but will help. And then of course, you could put a little bit of dressing on there if you wanted as a side salad, but we have our carbs, our protein, our veggies, our fat, and fiber. I hope this gave you a good idea of what a plate or meal could look like. Of course, these are not cut and dry numbers, and you do not need to live by these numbers. Every meal is going to look a little different, and what I need from my body is going to be different from what you need with your body. It's going to depend on your age, your gender, your physical activity, your body composition, your goals, and a bunch of other things, especially your eating preferences. Some people like to have a little bit more carbs and less fat, and some people like to have a little bit more fat and less carbs. I do really think that we should be enjoying a balance of both things, but absolutely adjust depending on what makes you feel your best. And just a reminder, not every meal is going to look like this. Some days, of course, my veggie intake is a little bit lower. Maybe I have more carbs than normal, but when we think about the long run and eating for sustainability, if a lot of the time our meals are looking like this, it's really going to help set us up for success. And we can enjoy all foods in moderation. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and you found it helpful, and you can go out and start building balanced meals and plates and bowls and maybe even smoothies and things like that. If you would like this in a guide, we have a free guide on our site. I'll link it below. That way you can reference it at any time. And of course, check out Eat the Gains. We have a ton of macro-friendly recipes, aka they're going to have a good balance of protein, carbs, and fat.